Okay, so I decided to make this video because I've been playing DC Universe lately and it's a great game, but I've seen so many people uh, just quit the game or not understand what to do once they hit level 30. So for those who don't know, level 30 is the max level you can achieve in this game. It's the level cap. And what DC Universe does to indicate your strength is they use a rating called combat rating. So if you press I, it shows your inventory, and if you scroll over to stats, you can see there's a combat rating stat. And if you click on it, it tells you measures the combat effectiveness based on the best equipment in your possession. So essentially, when you're wearing items, this will increase your strength. So to me, combat rating is really the level of the items that you're wearing. And it's calculated by taking the levels of all the different items that you're wearing and weighting them appropriately based on their value. So a chest piece is one of the bigger pieces on your body, so it has a higher weight than, let's say, a ring. When you mouse over the items, you can see at the bottom it says item level 62 at the very, very bottom. And that's how you'll know the item levels that you have. So this one's 56, this one here is 62, this one's 64, etc., etc. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, that's great. What's the maximum combat level I can get? Where am I going? So the max at the time of this video is 103, and you can get there by having the best items in the game. And what you'll notice is on these items, so for example, this head item, there's a yellow socket. So in addition to having the item level being 56, I can imbue this with a socketable piece, which will give me bonus combat rating, which will increase the item level, and it will also give me bonus stats. So I might have one filled in here, maybe not. No, I don't have any filled in here. So we'll go over that later. So that's kind of the basics of where you're going to be going. So the next question is, once I find my combat rating, how do I know what I can do to increase it? So you want to press Y, and Y is your on duty tab. So Y shows you kind of the quests you can do. So if you press J, it's the journal, and this is the quest that you had up until level 30. But when you press Y, these are the raids you can queue up for. So this events tab will be, the seasonal events. They're kind of fun. The one-player events are shown here, and there's 2-player, 4-player, 8-player. I don't do any of the player versus player stuff, so I can't really speak to that, but those options are there as well. So you'll notice when you go to some of these raids, let's say I go on the 8-player one. Let's actually start on the 4-player one. You'll notice that says Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5. So tiers are imaginary, or I guess distinct groupings made by the Sony Online Entertainment, which makes DC Universe. And it's just a way to bracket combat ratings. So, for example, if I press I, my combat rating is 62. If the highest is 100, you can imagine I wouldn't be as strong as a guy who's level 100 combat rating. So I wouldn't want to be in the same raid as him. He'd be doing a lot better than I am, and I'd be pulling him down. So let's press Y again. So we'll see here, when you mouse over, let's go to the 2-player one. So Tier 1 is different in each group. They're a little bit different in each pairing, so 1-player, 2-player, 4-player, player, but they're roughly the same. So Tier 1 is essentially your level 30. You can see there's no prerequisites here, and the reward is Marks of Triumph. You can see in Tier 2 it says required combat rating 43. So that'll give you an indication of what raids you can join. You can see down here Tier 5 here is 84, so I can't queue into these, they're locked. So the next thing you want to do is, how do I queue? So the first thing you need to do is, what's my role? Because in DC Universe, there are technically 6 roles, but there are 4 unique roles. You can be a damage dealer, you can be a healer, a controller, or a tank. So to figure out what your role is, you can just press T and you'll change roles. That symbol with the fire is damage, and the plus is healer. You'll be able to tell what you are just in the top left corner. You can see I have a little heart there. That's a healer, and damage. So I can only be healer or damage. So either way, that's where you want to be. So now that we went over how you can increase your combat rating and what role you are, you want to queue up for raids. So you press Y and go to the raid you want. So let's say I want to do, I don't know, they're all pretty fun, to be honest. These science cells here. So combat rating 43, which I am. The rewards are marks of triumph, which I'll go over. But to click, you just click here on the left hand side and you click Q. So it's kind of annoying because you have to click your role on the side here. I should probably fix it. But after you click Q, you have to go here and it says no role selected. You got to click that and pick your role. You can pick multiple roles, but I'm just going to pick healer because I'm a healer. You click select and you click ready. So I'm in the queue now. So when the right composition of players queues up, a message will come to you and say, hey, you're ready to go. You just press enter and you queue in. To leave the queue, just click leave the queue. So I'm going to leave the queue. Alright, so let's talk about currency. Marks of triumph. So what is that? So I find this kind of silly, and I honestly don't understand why all games do this. There's a lot of games that do this. They have 10 different types of currency. And in here, there are 3 that you kind of need to worry about. There's cash, there's marks of triumph, and there's a thing called marks of reality. So when you press Y, you'll notice raids, when you click on them, their reward is marks of triumph. And if you go to tier 5, the reward is marks of reality. So to put it simply, cash is what you use to buy basic items in the game. It's pretty much useless late game. Marks of triumph is what you will be using to buy higher level armor, and then once you hit tier 5, you need to use marks of realities to buy the highest level armor. So that's generally how it works. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is, we know how to queue for a raid, we run the raid, you get some cool items. I'm sure everyone knows how to equip the items. So you go and you just equip them to your hero. The next thing is, okay, I got a bunch of these marks. Where do I buy the stuff? So press M, warp HQ. That's where you're gonna go. This is the watchtower. And let me just tell you something. This place is like a maze. If you've played the game before, you might be familiar with it, but if you haven't played the game before, they couldn't make it any more complicated. So it looks pretty simple. It looks sort of like a circle, but in each of these containment sections here, they have 2 levels, and that's not shown here. I mean, you can kind of see stairs, but who really knows? So it's broken up into 3 wings. The right wing is called the magic wing. You can see it says magic wing. This is the tech wing, is the left, and meta is the bottom. And the easiest way to find out what you want to do is just look on the left side. There's a list here. So these rows, I mean, for those who are engineers, this is row. For any of these hexagons that have a row in it are teleporters, and they'll teleport you to the different locations. Circles are just points where you want to be. So respec device, those are places where you can change your powers and your skills. It costs cash. It only costs 500. It's definitely worth it to go there and like check out if you can get better powers. Brokers are places, I mean, the bank's where you store your stuff. You could share stuff between players. Broker is like an auction house. It's where you can buy and sell stuff. Mail, you know what that is. R&D station we'll go over later. So here are the vendors. So remember I told you we are not doing PvP. So that means that we're doing PvE, player versus environment. So we are tier 1 right now when you first hit level 30, so you want to go to the tier 1 PvE vendor. So you can see it highlights it, literally highlights it. So I just right clicked on it and we're going to go there. So it's in the magic wing. You know, we'll just fly there now and see what it looks like. Alright, so we're in here and there's a few vendors in this room. So how do we tell what's what? How do we know what to buy? So let's go to this first vendor here. So the way to tell what things are is by looking at the item stats, and they're kind of confusing. The first thing to look at is, do you see PvP on this list? So I do. It's right here. So that means that's not an item we want. PvP items will not work in raids. So we're not going to that vendor. Let's try Aquaman over here. So if we scroll down, we can see again it's PvP. So we don't want that. So it must be Raven. So we go to Raven, and there's a few things to notice here.
This armor can be yours.
The required level of the item is listed here. So I know tier 1 is the first item you'll get because you need to be 30. And most items will have a combat rating requirement as well. Next it'll have how it'll change your stats if you buy it. And then it'll have the style. So I don't have the style, but if I were to buy this and equip it, I would get the style. It has the blue socket, we talked about that. And then here's the item level itself. And it costs 39 marks of triumph, which we see here. So I have enough marks of triumph, I have enough cash, but this item level, when you saw it at the bottom, is level 46, and my chest plate is level 62. So you may be wondering, why is it that when we went in here, you'll notice that it will actually decrease my, it'll increase my stats a little bit for getting a lower level item. Like what's going on with that? That's because there are two groups of items in this list. There's damage and then there's your role. So my role is healer. So you'll notice the first set, see there's a chest, legs, helmet. If we scroll all the way down till we hit another chest, these are exactly the same items, but they're for your role. So I'm a healer. So you can see here, if I were to get the healing item, it's really just straight up worse than the item I'm wearing right now. So you generally want to get items for your role, and the reason being, there are actually 6 possible choices people can be. They can be a tank, controller, or healer, which is 3. And then for every one of those choices, each player can be a DPS, a damage player. So you end up having 6 options, and 50% of the people will be damage, and then you'll have a 6th into each of the other options. So there generally aren't as many healers, controllers, and tanks. So it benefits you to be one of them because you can queue faster, and people always like them in the raids. So it's just like an overall benefit. So you go through, you buy your items, and you'll increase your combat rating, and then you can go do raids. The last thing I kind of want to cover here is how to equip your modifications, because that'll be interesting. So in each wing, there's a modification station. You'll see it because it'll look weird. Here it is. And it is extremely confusing. It's almost excruciatingly so. You should never have to play a game that makes something this confusing. It almost doesn't make sense. So here's how it works. You go around, let's see if I even have any. So you're gonna go fly around the city, and this is the bank I'm going into. Let's see if I have any. Oh, I don't have any. Well, you're gonna fly around the city and you're gonna collect these things called exobits. I'm sure you've seen them a few times. 8 bits go into a byte. So when you come here, I can create an aggressive exobyte by putting 8 aggressive exobits. Now I have 0 of 8. You can see 0 of 8. If I had 8, then this would say 8 of 8, and I can click create and it would make one. Alright. Then the next step is, once you have these bytes, you can put them into different modifications. So let's say I'm in equipment modifications 2, and I want precision and health. you need 6 vengeful exobytes. So a vengeful exobyte here is 4 red and 4 blue bits. So that means you need 8 bits per byte. And then if you need 6 bytes, that's 8 times 6, which is 48. So you'll need 48 different bits to make this piece alone. These focusing elements, they drop from raids. You'll get them automatically. Equipment type interface you have to buy from the vendor to our left. I'll show you. Complex and simple materials you get by going to salvaging. And if you have any items that you can destroy them here instead of selling them to get those pieces. So it's ridiculously confusing. I hope this helped. I hope you guys are able to queue up for raids and kind of understand what you need to do. And I guess have fun playing.